One word that you kind of said that, had my brain going was budget. What advice do you have for people kind of going through that shock?
A recession is actually part of an economic cycle. So even if there might be a time when we go through a recession, we should be optimistic because at the end of the day, the economy would bounce back.
I have a spreadsheet at home. I literally have all my expenses for the month, and I have allocated expense money and actual savings.
Another thing that we continue to hear on the streets is the I word. Inflation. We're back with another episode of Building Better with Brandon, and we got two lovely women in the studio today, Latanya and Renella from TD. Thanks so much for joining me.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
We're hearing about two different words, recession and inflation. Renella, I want to kind of go to you first. What is the definition of a recession?
A recession essentially occurs when economic output, so basically, economic activity, people spending and shopping, when that declines.
Right.
So when that declines, what happens is that businesses no longer earn as much money as they tend to, and their hiring intentions often fall. The recession is actually part of an economic cycle, and the natural tendency of an economy is to grow. So even if there might be a time when we go through a recession, we should be optimistic because at the end of the day, the economy would bounce back and recover from it.
What plans are you putting in place?
Just manage your money according to what it is.
I'm watching what I'm buying at grocery stores for food-wise, going for stuff that's on sale.
I have a spreadsheet at home. I literally have all my expenses for the month, and I have allocated expense money and actual savings.
What we can do is, budgeting and try to find some kind of financial products where we can put our money aside and earn interest.
I know right now a lot of people are feeling this bottom level, or at least worried about this bottom level, this potential recession. Latanya, I know through the Black Business Experience through TD, you speak with a lot of people. What are you hearing from them?
So it's concerning for a lot of people in terms of the affordability aspect and whether or not, they're prepared for the long-term effects of inflation and the recession. But there are a lot of opportunities that exist for people to know whether or not they're on track using a lot of the TD tools and tips that we have on our website. And you want to be sure that you're sticking closely to the budget that you have, understanding your expenses and where you can cut expenses. Also ensuring, especially on the financial side, connecting with your advisor at your bank to ensure that they're also sharing with you ideas and strategies around how to maybe save more money, save more time.
One word that you kind of said that, had my brain going was budget. And that's kind of, I'm guessing, the first place people should start is to make sure you actually have a budget.
So for budgeting, we definitely recommend using a budget tool that we have on our TD website. In addition to that, using the TD My Spend app actually helps. Right now, I actually use it to support me with understanding whether I'm on my way to saving or whether I'm on my way to overspending month over month. And because it helps to track monies that come in and out, I find that it really strengthens my ability to see opportunities to stack money away in my emergency fund.
So this tool, you basically can put in all your monthly expenses, and then you see how much money you bring in, and then it kind of tells you where you're at.
Yes.
Well, what would you say to that person who says, well, I don't need that because I can do it all in my head?
Forgetting can cost you gravely. And it's not only from an interest expense perspective, but forgetting to pay a credit card that you might have, that's a one-off, can seriously impact your credit score as well. And in this time, you want to be sure that you're maintaining your credit score just as much as you're creating or saving.
Another thing that we continue to hear on the streets is the I word, inflation.
Cost of goods is slowly increasing.
What is inflation?
So inflation is the general increase in average price level. So we track that by looking at what we call a basket of goods and services, which is your CPI. So within those baskets, essentially what the Bank of Canada does is they attach weights to various things like grocery shopping, taking care of your house, and a variety of items. And every month we're effectively tracking the extent to which prices are going up. When times are good and when the economy is growing in a manner that's consistent with potential GDP, we tend to see inflation growing at about 2%.
Right.
And that's usually where the Bank of Canada likes to see inflation growing. However, if we're in a situation where, demand is too high or their supply chain bottlenecks, we can see inflation growing higher than that. And that's the case that happened during the COVID pandemic.
Right.
We were all stuck inside. Some of us ordered, a lot of items and
Furniture, paint.
exercise equipment.
Right.
A lot of us got our hands dirty and do DIY activities. But that put a lot of pressure on goods prices, and some of these
Because there was so much demand.
so much demand, and some of the supply chains were constrained. And as a result of that, when businesses can't produce more, what they do, they actually have to raise prices.
So what I'm gathering from you, and I think for most people watching, the reason the Bank of Canada raised interest rates so fast was to try to take steam out of that demand that everybody was having for all different types of goods and services.
If inflation continued to grow at the pace that it was, what would happen is that your living standards is going to erode because your purchasing power is effectively going to evaporate. 1, 2, studies have shown that businesses are not able to adequately plan for the future and invest in the future when they don't have confidence in future inflation.
Well, this helps a lot because I think for a lot of people, it's very confusing because, 1 year everything was just booming and then the next year everything was costing a lot more. But it now makes sense that what the Bank of Canada was trying to do is have some predictability because that fluctuation year over year is not good for anybody. But the problem is that for a lot of people, the shock came so quick. What advice do you have for people kind of going through that shock?
So you have to just keep a dynamic approach to your income and expenditure. It's important to get creative.
Right.
It could be shopping when the stores have discounts, probably changing habits around eating at home, not dealing with a lot of the nice to haves, but the needs based kind of shopping. And those things are serving people well in this kind of season.
Yeah, we don't have money to spend on luxuries and stuff like that. But I hope we'll have some good news soon.
For younger people, are there any extra tools or resources that TD offers potentially that could help with this situation where, the cost of living crisis that we're dealing with?
The TD MySpend app, we also have articles on TD Advice Hub that speaks to strategies that people can implement just to help them think about their unique circumstances a little bit more and how it is that they can successfully navigate. This is a time where you can't just exist in this economy. For my younger folks, I always say to have knowledge, it is empowering. So it's best to also get the information, just like subscribing to your channel, just to understand what's happening globally and locally, and how it is that you can actually maneuver and survive in situations like this.
This is probably the best time to talk to somebody at the bank.
Best time to have advisors. And through our Black Customer Experience strategy, we have regional managers as well as colleagues trained up across TD, across Canada, who are available and ready to have those conversations. It's not just about closing business, it's about elevating the financial literacy of the Black community.
How has this current climate, of high inflation, recession kind of just knocking on the door impacted your own habits? I want to start with you, Latanya.
So as you know, I'm a mom. I have 2 boys. And with the Jamaican culture in the back of my head, I can remember as a child growing up when we had similar situations back home. My father would say something like, not every day is Christmas, especially when you're trying to overeat.
So did you do less bun and cheese this year?
Oh my gosh, Jamaican cheese. But yes, I had to cut back on that. And in my household right now, I've incorporated that kind of conversation with my children, my family. We're all on board to understand that things are way more expensive now than before. So we have to think about what it is that we're doing for recreation, for generalized expenses, and how can we save and conserve electricity. Kids, they run through the house, they pop on all the lights. With water, they run a shower for 20 minutes before even stepping in, that kind of thing. So these are some of the things that I'm pulling their attention to say, hey, help us to conserve so that we're not spending money in areas that we could actually save.
What about you?
I think for us, my family and I, we reacted in a very similar way, like trimming expenses where you can. The bigger impact I think we could have as individuals who are more au fait with finances to really, be outspoken in terms of of the information that you're sharing with people who might be less informed. And it starts with knowing exactly where we are in the cycle. Things are slowing down, rightly should be, given that we are seeing a tighter monetary policy environment. And there is uncertainty that comes with that. But to the point that was raised earlier, we need to be more cautious in terms of our saving.
Well, I do have some savings, so I mean, I'm trying to put a little bit money away per week, but not as much as I used to.
Right.
Yeah, and plus I have 2 children, so it's a little bit harder.
So you got a lot going on.
Yeah, it's okay. It's all good.
Yeah.
Sun's shining, you know.
And that's the good thing.
Tomorrow's a new day, so yeah.
All right, and we'll make it through this, right?
Of course we will.
Renella, I do want to ask though, when is this coming to an end? When are better times to come in? Are you the predictor? Do you have the ball?
I think, if we're honest with ourselves as economists, we would argue that we cannot predict the future. We can only have an expectation of where things are going. And I think there's still cause for optimism. From what we've seen so far, the Bank of Canada has achieved quite a lot in terms of taming inflation. We are much closer to getting back towards that 2% level. We're not there yet. Although we're seeing a bit of an increase in the unemployment rate, we would still characterize that as still a bit of a soft landing. So there are still reasons for optimism.
I think that's the right note to end it on, being optimistic. So if you are feeling a little sad, hopefully you're feeling enlightened after watching this. And you're going to book a meeting. Yes. You're going to check out the resources in the description below, right, Latanya? Yes. And if you see Latanya on the streets, you always have the advice ready to go, right?
Ready to go.
All right. Latanya, Renella, thank you so much for joining me. And for everybody watching, make sure to keep it locked because we have more episodes of Building Better with Brandon coming for you throughout the year. Hey, it's BG, and I want to know, what do you think about what you just watched? Make sure to drop your thoughts in the comments below, but also make sure to check out even more great content like this video and this video over here. And if you haven't subscribed to the Brandon Gones Show, do so right now by clicking this button right here.